Good afternoon, dear learners. Welcome to the NIOS studio. So today we are going to discuss about the lesson 8 of our senior secondary course, that is plant protection and harvesting. So dear learners, today we are going to discuss and understand what are the insect pest and how we can go for integrated pest management, and what are the different type of plant diseases, and what are the signs of harvesting the crop at the right stage or at the right time. So here actually we will also know that how the various types of insects and diseases affect our final harvest of the crop, and how we can manage our crop harvest or final crop yield, so can a farmer can get a high return from his produce. So dear learners, we all know that plants are susceptible to the various types of organism. It may be bacteria, the various types of insects, fungi, or any other organism induced infection, just like they are human bodies. So here actually the term is used called pest. Actually these pests are very tiny insects, animals, or even some types of parasitic plants also that feed on the crop, that can damage them or thus making it unhealthy for the consumption of human. So here the diseases in plants are usually caused by harmful bacteria, virus as well as fungi, which generally spread through air, water or soil, making the plants weak as well as sick. So the successful harvest of the agricultural produce depends heavily on the accurate detection of this disease as well as their early prevention, so that these plant pathogen as well as the proper timing and the method of the harvest that can be managed well. So dear learners, so today the learning outcome of this session will be that after completion of this session, you will be able to know the definition of insect, pest, diseases and what are their life cycle, and you will also be able to explain the importance of integrated pest management practice and as well as their role in maintaining ecological imbalance. And here you will also be able to distinguish the various types of common plant disease syndrome, and you will also be identify the appropriate method as well as the suitable time for harvesting of the plant produce. So dear learners, let's first understand what is the agro ecosystem and how a pest has been made from this agro ecosystem. So let's first understand what is an ecosystem. So an ecosystem can be described as it is a functional unit of nature, where actually the biotic and abiotic components of nature, they can interact here. And here this ecosystem may be a natural ecosystem or it may be man-made or anthropogenic ecosystem. In case of natural ecosystem, here actually the ecosystem function goes on without any human intervention. This type of natural ecosystem, it may be forest ecosystem, grassland ecosystem, pond ecosystem, and there are many more such type of natural ecosystem. However, this the agro ecosystem is one part of or one type of natural ecosystem. Here actually it is one kind of managed ecosystem. Here actually the producer, or we can say the farmer, they can actually restrict the natural interaction among the biotic and the abiotic component of the nature to maximize its productivity and to maintain its ecological balance. So now let's understand what are the biotic as well as the abiotic component of the nature. The biotic components include the various types of plants, insects, microorganism as well as the macroorganism. While in case of abiotic component, it may be soil, water, solar radiation as well as the temperature and pH of the soil. So, here we can define a pest like this. A pest is any living organism that directly or indirectly causing economic losses to the human being and their belonging. So, this crop pest may include the various types of insects, bacteria, fungi, the virus or nematode. Now, let us first understand what are the life cycle as well as the metamorphosis of an insect. So, actually the general insects belong to the class Insecta, which comes under the phylum Arthropoda, and under this Arthropoda, for the crop production point of view, there are 4 insects order that are particularly useful to study. First one is Lepidoptera, second one is the Coleoptera, third one is the Hymenoptera, fourth is Diptera, and apart from that the Thysanoptera as well as Hemipteras are also important. Coming to the life cycle of the insect, it may go through generally 4 stages. First stage is the egg, second is the larva, from larva there is the stage called pupa, and final is the adult. And in case of different type of insect, the young stage may be described in the different order or various types of insects, and it may be called larva, nymph or nanad depending on their type of metamorphosis. Actually, why the understanding of life cycle is important, particularly the larval as well as the adult stage are particularly harmful, or these stages of insect can cause damage to the crop plant. So, when we understand the pattern or timing of this life cycle of an insect, we can take up the appropriate measures at right time, so that we can manage this insect pest. Coming to the type of insect pest, generally there are 2 type of insects. One is the chewing insects, another one is the sap feeder, and here these insects are categorized based on their feeding behavior. Here actually in case of chewing insects, they actually they chew the plant tissue with their mouth part, and here the various types of chewing insects are there. They may be borer, stem loper, the tobacco caterpillar, leaf folder as well as the leaf miner. Coming to the sap feeder, it can actually suck the plant sap from the body and through their piercing as well as the sucking type of mouth part. Here actually these types of sap feeders are like aphid, whitefly, scale insects as well as the plant hopper. Coming to the characteristics damage symptom, in case of chewing insect we can find the symptoms like defoliation, boring as well as mining. Coming to the damage symptom of the sap feeder, here we can find the yellowing of the leaf curling as well as the puckering, gall, or it may cause or the amplified by various other set of factor. Coming to the IPM, here actually the IPM stands for integrated pest management. So, why we go for integrated pest management? Actually, we all know that the chemical pesticides are harmful for the human body as well as our environment. So, if we go for unrestricted use of this chemical pesticide, ultimately it can cause our generation as well as our future generation. So, here the concept of integrated pest management comes, that is the managing our insect pest through sustainable ways. Here actually in this IPM we can actually combine the various biological, chemical, physical as well as cultural strategies to control our pest. So, let us now understand what are the principles for pest control measure. Here actually our first principle is that our target should be not to eliminate all the pest or insect, but to manage their population below the level, so that it can cause the insignificant loss to our crop type. So, here actually the two concepts come. One is the EIL, that is the economic injury level, another one is the economic threshold level. So, this economic injury level means the pest level where the crop damage exceeds the control cost, while in case of economic threshold level, here at which level the control or the pest control strategies to begin, so that it does not reach the economic injury level. So, these two level are actually the empirical mark. Here actually we can simply say that we must control our pest at the below economic injury level, and when the disease symptom start, we must start our management practice at economic threshold level, so that the farmers economic loss should be lower. Now, next comes to the 5 pillars of IPM. Actually, the IPM stands on the 5 major control strategies. The first strategy is cultural method, second is the physical method, third is the biological method, 4 is behavioral control, and the 5th is chemical control. In case of cultural method, we must go for the growing of resistant varieties, we must go for summer plowing, also we must go for line sowing, timing adjustment, crop rotation, field sanitation, balanced fertilization. Coming to the resistant variety, there are various types of crop varieties that are resistant to the various type of plant diseases. So we must cultivate to those resistant varieties, so that we can avoid the costly use of our chemical pesticide. Next come summer plowing. Here actually it is a practice during the summer, the lands are deep plowed and they are kept open in the under the sun, and due to the heat of this scorching sun, the various types of vector or insects eggs, they are destroyed in the land. Coming to the line sowing, when we go for the line sowing, here actually the management practices, particularly the weeding or spraying any type of chemical is much easier. And the fourth is the timing adjustment. Here actually we can shift our sowing time as well as the irrigation time, so that it cannot attract the various types of insects and diseases. And the fifth is the crop rotation. Here actually instead of monoculture like rice type cultivation, we should go for the rice legume or wheat legume type cultivation. Here actually when we go for crop rotation, the cycle of disease outbreak, or we can break the life cycle of insect. And we must keep our field clean, as well as we must go for balanced fertilizer. In this case, if we apply higher amount of nitrogenous fertilizer, it may attract the various types of pest and diseases. Now next come the physical method. Here actually we must go for removal of eggs, larva as well as pupa. Second, we must use the insect trap as well as the rope dragging and the bird perches to control our insect pest. And now third is the biological method. In case of biological method, there are several types of natural enemies to the various types of bacteria, virus as well as the nematode. Here actually we should use such natural enemies to control our pest. Here the both parasitoid as well as predator, they can be used, and also we can go for use of biopesticide, which are made from the biological organism. In case of parasitoid, they are actually organism which can lay their eggs in the host on the host body, and they can grow on the host body, and ultimately this host body dies. While in case of predator, it can directly prey upon the insect pest and they feed on them. Now our fourth pillar is the behavioral control. In case of behavioral control, we can use the various types of sex pheromone chemical that can actually confuse the male insect, and as a result it can disrupt the mating procedure of the insect pest. And now comes the last pillar, and it is the chemical control. Here actually we should use for chemical control technique or go for chemical control technique as a last resort, when the other options like cultural method, physical method, biological method, behavioral control, all these are failed. So here actually we must use our chemical pesticide judiciously, so that it only used in the need based condition, and it should be guided by the principle of economic threshold level. So dear learners, let us take a break. After that we will discuss the various types of disease symptoms. Welcome back, dear learners. So we are discussing about the various pillars of integrated pest management, where we have discussed about the cultural method, physical method, biological method, behavioral control as well as the chemical control. So dear learners, let's understand the various types of disease part, that is the infectious diseases as well as the non-infectious diseases. So now let's first understand what is the disease. Disease actually it is the abnormal functioning of the plant body or the plant physiological as well as metabolical processes which are caused by various types of plant pathogen. So here actually the first type of disease is infectious disease. Infectious disease is caused by the pathogenic organism that are fungi, bacteria, virus, nematode or as well as the protozoa. Actually these infectious disease can spread from one plant to another plant with the help of the vector or through the spread of the infectious agent. So here this controlling of this infectious disease is very much important, so that it doesn't become an outbreak of disease. While in case of non-infectious disease, it is caused by unfavorable abiotic factors such as adverse soil as well as environmental condition. Since here no pathogen is involved, they are not easily transmitted from one plant to another plant. However, it can cause the localized disease symptom through some of the plant. Here actually this non-infectious disease can be caused by the nutrient deficiency, temperature fluctuation or water logging. So now let's first understand what are the common disease symptoms. We have already understood that the diseases are caused by fungi, bacteria and virus. Now our first symptom is that is the wilting. Here actually the turgidity of the cell has been lost. In case of leaf spot, it is these lesions on the leaf, or as well as we can find the various types of spot on the leaf. Coming to the anthracnose, there is the ulcer like lesion which is necrotic in nature, that can be formed on the plant leaf. Coming to the canker, here actually the localized necrotic lesion can be found on the woody tissue. Coming to the damping off, here actually the collapse and the death of very young seedling happens. Now comes the scab. Here actually the lesions on the tuber as well as plant part are found. In case of blight, there is the browning and the death of the plant part. Coming to the rust, it is a very small lesion that are found on the leaf which are giving a leaf a rust like appearance. And in case of dieback, it is actually the progressive death of shoot from the top to the bottom. And now last is the powdery mildew. Here we can found the powder like formation on the upper part of the plant leaf, and for this reason this is called the powdery mildew. Coming to the fungi, we can define fungi as a spore forming non-chlorophyllous as well as it is the prominent plant pathogen. Coming to the bacteria, it is the microscopic and prokaryotic, or it can reproduce by binary fission. And when it comes to the virus, it is a non-cellular like organism metabolism when it is outside the host, and it lacks the digestion as well as respiration there. However, when it comes contact to the host cell and host body, it can actually activate as well as the replicate in the host body. So here actually the most plant viruses are RNA virus, and these viruses are spread to the plant body through various types of vector like aphid as well as thrips. Now coming to the managing the plant pathogen, host as well as environment. So here similar like insect management, here actually we should go for three pillars like pathogen management, host management as well as the environmental management. In case of pathogen management, we should exclude or eradicate the various types of disease inoculum actually before they can enter in the field. While in case of host management, we should improve the plant vigor, induce the disease resistant through the nutrition, breeding, and for the genetic resistance as well as the need based chemical protein. Coming to the environmental management, here actually we can change the microenvironment around the plant so that such disease cannot multiply or cannot establish itself around the plant body. Now comes the vector management. The vector management, it is the first line of defense, because we all know that the disease or the viruses are spread through the vector. So here the vector management is most important part for the management of viral disease. So here also the fungicide and antibiotics, they should be used as a last curative measure for the control of the plant diseases. Now next let's understand what are some of the traditional practices that may be used for disease control. Here actually, since the ancient times, we all know that the crops are grown. However, this chemical pesticide is the recent invention of the humanity. So before this invention of chemical pesticide, the human used the neem, turmeric, cow dung as well as the cow urine, ash as well as the lime solution for the control of the pest. Their effect is not causing harm to our environment as well as the human body. However, their effectiveness may vary. However, they are very much environmental friendly in nature. Now next comes to the crop maturity as well as the harvesting part. When we say crop maturity, there is the two type of maturity. One is the physical maturity as well as the harvest maturity. A farmer should decide his harvesting time based on the crop maturity, and it is very important step of crop production, because if farmer goes for untimely harvest, ultimately his produce will deteriorate. So now let's first understand what is the physiological maturity. It is the stage where the plant reaches its maximum dry weight. Here actually, if we add additional inputs like fertilizer or water, we do not gain any type of additional yield. So in case of grain crops, generally it is considered that at the hard dough stage the plant attains the physiological maturity. Coming to the harvest maturity, it is a stage when the economic part is at its highest quality and quantity, and in case of rice, it is generally found that the harvest maturity comes when the grain moisture is close around 20 to 25%. That is, the grain is firm but not brittle when squeezed. So, it is the harvest maturity, it is the ideal condition or most practical target for the successful harvest as well as the marketing of crops. Now, next comes to the harvesting sequence. So, harvesting in itself is a broad term. Under the harvesting process, there is the first stage, that is the reaping. Here the cutting as well, the cutting of mature crop on the 10 to 15 centimeter above the ground with the help of sickle or some other machine may be done. Next comes the field drying. Here the crops which are cut are exposed to the sun or various types of artificial dryer to bring down their moisture content. Third is the threshing. Here actually the grains are separated from the crop with the help of beating, or it may be done by electrical or aerial flow thresher. Now, next comes cleaning. In this cleaning process, the chaffy grain or dusks are removed, and they can be sieved to remove the stone, the soil particle or any other type of weed seed. And the final stage is bagging. Here actually after the cleaning stage, the crop is ready to be marketed, and this stage the crops are packed and in a bag or in a packet so that they can be transported easily to the nearest market. So, now let us understand when to know when or how to know our crop is ready for the harvest. So, for this purpose, for different type of crop, there are different type of harvesting criteria, and a farmer should follow this harvesting criteria for successful harvest of each crop. In case of rice, it has been decided that generally when the 80 to 85% grain becomes straw colored and this rice is ready for harvesting. It generally comes 30 to 35 days after heading. When wheat, it is the ready for harvest at the hard dough stage, when the spikelets yellow and the straw becomes dry. In case of chickpea, when it is ready for harvest, then leaves become dry and shed, and plant and all over the plant turns reddish brown in the color. Coming to the rapeseed and mustard, its 70 to 85% siliqua turns yellow, and it can have this 30% seed moisture, and seed becomes the farm. And for the cotton, it is well dried and its bolt should be fully opened. So, here we have discussed the harvesting criteria of some of the common crops that are widely grown in India. In the textbook, you can find the various other harvesting criteria for the other type of crop, and you can find in any other type of standard agricultural textbook. So, dear learners, the key takeaways from today's class is we have understood what is the pest and what are its life cycle, which goes through egg, larva, pupa, adult. Then we understood what are the integrated pest management strategies. We also have understood the various types of disease, the disease types and as well as its symptom, and we have also understood in what way or in through the scientific technique how we can successfully harvest our crop at the right time and at the right maturity stage. So, dear learners, thank you so much. In the next class, we will meet up with lesson 9. Till then, thank you so much.